230 years ago, someone wrote a book that was powerful and so dangerous that it's still being used to this day. It's a manual, a playbook, for controlling entire nations and manipulating the masses. The Crowd, by Gustave Le Bon, has been used by dictators and governments to manipulate entire countries for over a century. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly how crowds are controlled and how the pillars of manipulation Gustave uncovered are used against you. You'll even learn how some of the most evil rulers in history, most notably Hitler, used this work to rise to power. Unless you take note of the wisdom that was unveiled by Le Bon, you'll remain vulnerable to these exact tactics that have been destroying society for decades. But once you're aware, you can start to protect yourself. And here's where it gets really crazy. Le Bon was not trying to make a manual for dictators. He simply observed and analyzed how crowds operate. But the true threat was that the wrong individuals read his work and used his descriptions to manipulate the world. Le Bon's central idea is simple. A crowd isn't a collection of individuals, because the exact moment people come together in a group, they stop thinking for themselves. Instead, they develop a crowd mind, a new, irrational, highly emotional way of thinking that is easily influenced. Crowds do not analyze, they react. They are impulsive, driven by emotions rather than reason. Once an idea takes hold, it spreads rapidly, and individuals within the crowd stop questioning it. Le Bon identified repetition as one of the most effective tools for influencing crowds. The more a message is repeated, the more it is absorbed as truth. Propaganda, advertising, and political slogans all exploit this principle to solidify ideas in the minds of the masses. Similarly, emotions take precedence over logic in a crowd. Complex reasoning does not resonate, but simple, powerful emotions such as fear, hope, and anger do. Leaders do not rely on facts to influence a crowd. They appeal to feelings. This is why political speeches are charged with emotion rather than rational discourse. Symbols also have a vital role to play in this group psychology. Crowds don't respond to complex concepts, but they attach deep significance to symbols, flags, and imagery. These visuals craft a strong sense of identity, unity, and belonging. Prestige and central authority further strengthen the obedience of a crowd. As a result, when a leader appears powerful and prestigious, the crowd is much more likely to follow. And they do this without hesitation and without question. This is why figures of authority, such as politicians, military leaders, and celebrities, are used to endorse messages and shape public opinion. Le Bon also realized that crowds follow leaders who provide certainty and display power. In order to control a crowd, a leader must appear decisive and confident even if they are wrong. You know this instinctively because you've already seen in your life how crowds gravitate to those who project certainty and conviction, rather than those who present a balanced view. Another powerful tool for controlling the masses is the use of illusions. Crowds can be manipulated by creating artificial crises, threats, enemies, or even grand visions of the future. It doesn't matter if these things are real. What matters is whether people believe them. By controlling what the masses perceive as reality, leaders can direct them towards whatever goal they desire. These psychological tactics are not just relics of the past. They are actively used today. Modern governments, corporations, and media outlets exploit crowd psychology to keep people divided, distracted, and easily controlled. By manufacturing the illusion of a consensus, mass media ensures that when a message is repeated often enough, it becomes widely accepted as truth. This is because people will stop questioning a message when they believe that everyone else agrees with them. Fear is another sinister tool. Governments and institutions have long relied on fear to crush dissent and exert their control. The simple fact is, when people are afraid, they do not think critically. They seek safety, and in their desperation, they will accept any solution presented to them, often at the cost of their freedom. Lastly, one of the most important things to understand about crowds is emotion. Emotion rules everything because crowds do not think in a logical way. This makes it easier to manipulate crowds into supporting policies, leaders, and movements. And this is why issues are always simplified into binary conflicts of good versus evil, encouraging people to take sides rather than to think critically. This psychological manipulation is deeply ingrained in the way the modern world operates, and not by accident. One of the most infamous examples of these tactics in action is Adolf Hitler's rise to power. Hitler explicitly referenced the crowd in Mein Kampf, acknowledging that controlling mass psychology was the key to controlling a nation. He mastered the art of repetition, ensuring that his slogans, messages, and propaganda were repeated so often that they became ingrained in the German psyche. He understood that the masses respond to emotions rather than facts, and he skillfully used fear, anger, and national pride to rally support. Hitler's propaganda machine was built on the foundation of Le Bon's ideas. His speeches were theatrical performances designed to captivate and emotionally charge the audience. The Nazi rallies were grand displays of spectacle, reinforcing a sense of belonging and unity. Hitler's use of symbols, from the swastika to meticulously designed uniforms, created a powerful psychological association with strength, power, and national pride. By controlling the imagery, emotions, and narrative, he transformed ordinary citizens into unquestioning followers. Hitler also exploited the concept of a common enemy. By directing public frustration toward Jews, political opponents, and perceived threats, he gave the German people a tangible enemy to rally against. This unifying force based on fear and scapegoating solidified his control. The psychological principles outlined by Le Bon allowed Hitler to manipulate an entire nation, leading to one of the darkest periods in human history. These same tactics, though often more subtle, are still used by leaders today. Now that you understand how crowds are manipulated, the question is, how do you protect yourself? The first step is recognizing emotional manipulation. Whenever a message evokes strong emotions, whether it be fear, outrage, or blind enthusiasm, stop and ask yourself who benefits from you feeling this way. Instead of thinking collectively, think critically. When an idea is universally accepted without question, take the time to analyze it independently. It is crucial to develop media literacy and question the sources of information you consume. Propaganda often masquerades as news, and narratives are carefully crafted to guide public opinion in a desired direction. Seeking diverse perspectives, fact-checking claims, and identifying emotional appeals in messages can help you break free from manipulation. Governments and corporations thrive on controlling the narrative, but by exposing yourself to multiple viewpoints, you weaken their influence over you. Additionally, cultivating individual thinking means being aware of how crowd dynamics can influence personal decision-making. When you find yourself in a highly charged social or political environment, ask whether your beliefs are driven by independent thought or by the influence of the collective. The more you practice critical thinking, the less susceptible you become to manipulation. The Crowd by Gustave Le Bon is one of the most dangerous books ever written, not because it tells people what to do, but because it exposes how people are already being controlled. The question remains, will you allow yourself to be led by the crowd, or will you take control of your own mind? And in the next video, you'll learn how to truly take control of your life by becoming aware of your own self-sabotaging manipulations that occur in your mind every day.